So over the holidays, I rewatched Iron Man for what I believe is the eighth time in my life. I wasn't keeping account, but let's just be assured, I really fucking like Iron Man. Right? Iron Man 1 is legitimately my favorite live action superhero movie like ever. I love it. I love it. And I was thinking, right, when I was making this video, like, why do I like this so much? Because I was watching the movie and I was just like, this is just cool. Like, this is fun, but like, why, right? And so then it dawned on me. It's like, you know what? I could go and make like a video essay, right? Like I could go and break down every scene and see like why did I like this line of dialogue? Why did I like the way that this was shot? Why like really try to analyze why I like it. Why is this the MCU movie that I just keep coming back to? Because I fucking love it, man. Like it's the thing that I like. And then I realized that's fucking stupid, right? Why is that stupid though, right? Why is trying to make like a video about something I like so dumb, right? And the reason why is because the way I would have to frame it is why do I like this movie better than all the other MCU movies, despite the fact that the other MCU movies are better, right? Like I can tell you that there's ones with better action scenes, there's one with better jokes, there's ones with better character writing, there's ones that I just probably meant more to me. And in all honesty, when I first watched them, there's ones that are a better experience to watch. There's like 1,000 different things that I could tell you that are better than Iron Man 1. But at the end of the day, I just like it, right? And I couldn't really put it to words when I was thinking about it, right? No matter how much I tried, no matter what I did, I just couldn't really figure it out, right? And so if I tried to make a video all about why Iron Man 1 is actually the best in the MCU, why it's actually the one that every single movie past it is actually worse, right? And trying to basically start at a conclusion and work my way backwards, right? Try to say that, this is the best objectively, despite the fact that the only real reason I think that is my own subjective opinion, a subjective opinion that I know in my heart isn't technically correct, right? And that's when I kind of realized I started to think back, right? I started to kind of why did I feel like that was like the conclusion I needed to come to, that I needed to like make a video about why Iron Man was actually better than all these other movies. And I realized that that is just kind of the state of reviewing things. It feels like in the modern age, you can't just say that one thing is good. It has to be dealt with like some comparison. It has to be better than something. It has to be the best. It has to be the worst. It has to exist in a state of hyperbole that I just don't think is sustainable in a sense, right? You, nothing can always be peak. Nothing can always be the best. Nothing can always be like because it's just sometimes things are just okay, right? Like, and I think that that's fine. And you can just like okay things. You can like bad things. But I feel like in the modern, internet zeitgeist and in the modern, cultural zeitgeist that we live under with the internet, it's become so common to want to know that your opinion is correct, despite the fact that it's an opinion. And then you take what is 100% an opinion and you turn it into something far more argumentative than it realistically can be. What do I mean by that? That's a bunch of big words and stupid talking, and that's kind of the point, right? I told you a lot of things, but didn't really say anything, right? I didn't really get a point across. And that's kind of what these videos are all about, right? You make enough big words, you use enough big concepts, and then you can make your opinion sound a lot closer to a fact than what you ever actually originally intended, right? Because if I made an Iron Man review and I pulled out a thesaurus and I got a bunch of big smart words, I could convince somebody that kind of liked Iron Man but didn't really know why into thinking that, oh, of course this is the best one. And then they would go and they would repeat the argument to their friends, right? And then it would become like influential to that one person because they were primed to agree with me because they shared my same opinion, but now I've given them big enough words to think that their opinion is fact. And I think that that is what a large amount of reviewing has become. It's become a bunch of confirmation bias that can't take things where they are. It has to be the best, it has to be the worst, and your opinion has to be the best, and it has to be the smartest and most well thought out, and it has to, use this like MBA level diction that ends up meaning nothing but sounding smart enough to convince stupid people that you're right. And that is what annoys me, right? Because it's a trap that I've fallen into so many times, right? Like for instance, whenever I was a youngin, right? I watched Gravity Falls and I really liked the show, right? But then I started seeing discourse online about it, right? And I started seeing people like hate on Mabel, right, for her decision later in the show. And it's a very selfish decision, and it makes you think like, wow, that really sucks. Like, man, this is a stupid character. This is a bad character, and it got echoed so much that I started to believe it. But it was never my opinion. I liked Mabel. I never even really found anything wrong with it to begin with. But I got influenced by the internet so much that I eventually shared an opinion that wasn't ever really mine to begin with. And that's my problem with the modern internet review, right? It makes you kind of take on an opinion that isn't necessarily yours because somebody that sounded smarter said it. Because upon rewatching the show, I realized that guy was full of shit, right? Whoever said that to me, whoever's opinion was that convinced me of that was wrong. And just because he wrote a script and has a microphone doesn't actually mean he has any justification for having a more correct, in quotes, opinion than my own, right? And that's what I feel has become like the problem, right? Everybody has to have the smartest opinion. Nobody can just like bad things. And I think that sucks because I love bad things. I love things that I know aren't the best, right? Like, and I feel like you can just say that and just say like, yeah, this really wasn't for me, but I can tell that this is like a fundamentally good product, right? Like this is a thing that I could absolutely recommend to somebody that would be interested in this type of product, right? Like for instance, you know, I and again, this isn't necessarily applicable to me because I think, at least I would like to think of myself as somebody that can really enjoy just about anything. I got a lot of hobbies, got a lot of interests, and I can pretty much find enjoyment out of anything because I know that no matter how much I would like to think of myself as somebody that is a lot smarter than I am, I like seeing stupid stuff. I like seeing, just the slop, right? Because like I like watching the Sonic movies, not because they're the best movies ever made, but because they're fun. I like watching MCU movies, not because they're the best movies ever made, but because they're fun. Does that mean that I don't like watching the best movies ever made? Obviously not. But it does mean that I like these things, right? And I think that there is this, and I feel like if I had to try to defend why I like these things more than others, I would never actually come to a comprehensive answer, but I could lie to myself enough, right? And I could use big enough words to convince others that I had a point that I really don't. And that's what I feel like the modern internet review has become. It's become a way to convince people that you are smart and that they are stupid and that they should listen to you. Despite the fact that sometimes you're wrong in your like hyper analytical, stupid, whatever bullshit viewpoint, but you said it in such a way that it made it convincing, right? Because that's the problem. It's it's the same thing as like winning an argument, right? Because winning an argument doesn't actually mean you were right. It could be, but it doesn't mean that. It means that you were able to talk in such a way that convinces somebody that you were right. Somebody that's good enough at arguing, going up against somebody that's bad enough at arguing, or somebody that's primed to be influenced, right? Like such as a young child, they can 100% like spin like crazy ideas, right? Like, saying kicking puppies is actually really good for the economy or something, right? A stupid fucking idea that I just made up. But if somebody was good enough at reviewing or good enough at arguing and used big enough words and confused you enough, they could very easily convince you that that like you do believe that it actually makes a lot of sense, but you don't actually believe any of it. And that's the problem, because I feel like that's what the modern internet review has become. It's become a lot of hyperbole, and it's become a lot of, you know, this is my opinion. I'm going to work backwards into trying to make my opinion something that is factual, right? Because you have to appear smart. You have to like appear dignified. You have to appear refined. And I think that's just a little silly because I don't get it. You know, I just I've never understood the want for it. I guess if that makes sense. Right? Like why want to be seen as that, right? Why want because what it gives you is a burden that you have to be right, that you have to be, intelligent and well spoken and well thought out when nobody ever is that 100% of the time. And so I think it sets people up for failure because eventually you hit a blind spot. Eventually you deal with you get put in a situation where you're wrong and it forces you to double down on your own shitty opinions in order to save face that you're actually really smart, which then therefore decreases the credibility of your intelligent stature, if that makes sense. Right? You know? Because that's my problem. It makes you it puts you in a box that I think a lot of people aren't comfortable being in, and very few people can maintain, right? Especially like the people that are cranking out a video a week, right, or two videos a week, three videos a week. Those people can't maintain this like intelligent stature. People that stream for like 8 hours a day, they just can't do it. But they have to act as if they are actually that intelligent and actually that smart and actually like. And so it eventually leads to them kind of forcing themselves to say things that they know aren't true, but saying them in such a way that backs up arguments that they didn't necessarily mean to make. And rather than just backpedaling and saying, oh shit, I fucked up, or oh, I was wrong about that, right? It forces you into the scenario where you kind of feel like, oh, um, no, actually, this is right, even though you know it's wrong because but since you're put in a corner, you have to act like it's still right, you know? And I think that especially again, I think it's especially pertinent around the time that like the best whatever of 2024 has come out, right? The best album, the best this, the best that, right? Because it just feels so, I don't know, it feels like everybody has to justify their opinions with facts that don't really exist, and it's become very boring. I guess if you want the thesis statement for this video, I wish that people could just like things because they like them. In the same way that I like Iron Man, look, I'm tying it back to the title. In the same way that I like Iron Man because he's Iron Man and he does Iron Man shit. In the same way that I like shows because sometimes I just like them, and sometimes it's not actually that deep. Like, why can't we just say that sometimes? Why can't we just say that we like something? And that's all, right? And that it actually isn't that deep, right? Because I think when people describe that phrase, like it's not that deep, it's very often somebody is trying to take a deeper look into something and they're trying to be very introspective about it and another person doesn't want to engage with them that way, right? And so they're saying it's not that deep as a way to kind of shut down the more, I guess, more dignified look at a series or at a piece of media or whatever, right? And I feel like very rarely is a series actually not that deep. I think more than likely the series is that deep, but your liking of that series or your dislike of that series isn't that deep. I think it's phrased in a very wrong way, right? Because it puts the lack of depth on the art rather than the consumer. Because I think it's very flipped, right? I think that typically art um like has a lot of depth and has a lot of meaning and has a lot of nuance that you can explore, right? But I think that a lot of the times our enjoyment of these shows and these movies and these games never actually are because of that depth. Does that mean they can't be? Obviously not. And I'd say that shows that are like my favorite, right? Like my favorite show ever is Cyberpunk 2070 or Cyberpunk Edge Runners, right? And I like that show because of those deeper analytical themes. I like the ideas that it has. I like the themes that it has. I like the English majory bullshit that it has, right? But, you know, does that mean that like it's the thing I want to watch 24/7? Does that mean that I like it for the same reason I like Iron Man? Obviously not, right? And I think that sometimes you can just like something without depth, right? Without nuance, without like critique, right? Right? But I think if you're gonna call something like the best, or a 10 out of 10, or this, that, or another, it has to have that depth. But I think it doesn't have to have that depth just to be enjoyable, right? Like if I see, I like, if I see, a video game where I get to be a cool guy with a sword running around killing people, I can just like it because of that. I don't have to like it for some deeper reason or for some greater nuance, and I can call it, like personally it's like a 9 out of 10, but critically it's like a 6, because I could have just liked it more than the next guy, right? Like I like Spider-Man 2 probably more than the next guy. I like Spider-Man 2 a lot more than I like Baldur's Gate 3 last year. But does that mean that I think Spider-Man 2 is a better game? Fuck no. Right? I but subjectively, right, without the depth and without the nuance and without the grandeur that I think is expected of game reviewers to put into things that don't have it, I think that, you know, without that depth, I liked Spider-Man 2 more just because I like being fucking Spider-Man, right? But Baldur's Gate 3 was the better video game. It objectively was, but subjectively I didn't like it. And I wish that people could just make that break sometimes. I wish that you could just like something and know that it's not the best, and know that it's not the greatest, and know that it's not something special, but still know that it was good, that it was good enough, right? That you liked it, and nobody can take that from you, right? Because that's what enjoy like why is enjoying things have to be this thing that we have to earn, right? You have to earn the enjoyment of something, right? You can't like playing something that's critically slammed because, oh well actually it's not, it's not X, Y, and Z. It doesn't have a good enough story. It doesn't have a good enough this. It's who cares, right? Just because a game isn't a 10 out of 10, or just because a game is a 10 out of 10, doesn't mean you have to like it. And I think people need to stop acting like that's what makes or breaks games, right? Because realistically, I I don't know. I feel like it's never going to be the reason I buy something as a critical review anymore. Because I feel like it's lost a lot of the plot. It's it's lost a lot of the fun factor that makes games what they are, or makes movies what they are, or makes TV shows what they are, or makes music what it is, right? It's lost a lot of that. Just I like this thing, right? That like on a personal level, I like this thing, right? And I don't know. It's just it sucks because it feels, I don't know. It's very hard to find reviews that show that I feel like show the other side of it. It feels like there's more than enough, half baked pseudo intellectual reviews, but there's not enough like people just liking stuff, right? And I wish there was more of that. And I don't know. I guess that's probably the point of this channel, honestly, if I'm being real. I really like things. I really like a lot of things, and I don't know. It sucks that everything has to be a video essay and a half. That not that things can't just be this, right? I can't just talk into a camera after a speed draw, and or talking to a microphone after a speed draw, and just discuss my thoughts on something off the cuff, right? That I have to write, a 20,000 word script before I get the right to have an opinion on something, and that my opinion can't be wrong on anything, right? Because if I have a wrong opinion, especially in these kind of videos, I'm more than fine that just call it wrong. Because again, a lot of these opinions aren't like well thought out in these videos. They're not like super analytical. They're not super like, I don't know, they're not really anything. They're just kind of what my what's going on in the brain of Gideon right now. And it just really sucks. It just really sucks that things have to be, things have to have that much nuance as a bare minimum, I guess. But that was my rant. That was my rant about how much I hate the modern reviewer. I guess if you want a brief Iron Man, if you haven't heard, there's this little movie called Iron Man in 2008. Pretty good flick, I would recommend. Uh, you know, and I don't know, maybe one of these days I'll go and make that video essay. But for now, I think that's what I'll leave you with. Regardless, thank you for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hey, we finally made it to the big 2025. So happy New Year's to all of you, right? Yeah. So again, sorry that this one dragged a lot more than my other videos as well. And for any of you that read the description and are worried about the comic, I'm like 3 pages into writing that. Probably will get pushed back to February. I don't know. I have a very busy schedule. That's not fucking true. I'm just really lazy. Um, but again, I will try to keep you all posted on that. So again, make sure to yeah, I guess make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see y'all in the next one. Bye.